Welcome to Mid-Century Living, your weekly nostalgia podcast about the best of technology and culture from the mid-20th century.
Welcome back to Mid-Century Living, the show where we talk all about the best of the mid-20th century and how to add vintage vibes to your modern life. We're your hosts, Jackie
and Gonzalo. Thank you for joining us today. Today we are talking about the great detective game, Clue. But first, Jackie, how was your week?
My week was good, so my most exciting food talk hasn't happened yet, but will have happened by the time this episode comes out, so it's okay to talk about it. So, Memorial Day weekend, the unofficial start of summer, and the unofficial start of hot dog season is upon us.
Nice.
So normally I'll do some sort of big like hot dog shenanigans for Memorial Day weekend, but this time my parents are coming to visit, and while I probably could have gone hot dog crazy with them involved also, and they would appreciate the novelty of it, I decided instead to like do something a little classier for lunch when they came in. So instead I'm doing this like baked sandwich loaf where you get like an unsliced loaf of bread and then you like cut slices into it and then stuff that with meat and cheese and then you bake it. And then you like, I guess, cut it into slices and then they become sandwiches, but it like you can put it on the like table as like one big sandwich loaf. It's going to look really cool. So I'm excited about that. And I'm also going to finally use my melon balling kit. Melon balling. Last year, I think at Target they had in their dollar spot this whole like fancy melon DIY kit. It was like everything you need to make melon shapes. So it was like a cutter and a scraper and a melon baller, and like I finally get to use that. So I'm gonna make a watermelon that's like a scalloped watermelon bowl, and I'm gonna fill it with melon balls, and I'm like really excited. I'm gonna use that both for a work potluck the Friday before Memorial Day weekend, and then also I think I'm just gonna make two of them. I've been trying to decide if I want to do like slightly different melon ball desserts, but I think I'm just going to make two stuffed watermelons because I'm going to have two watermelon halves.
Wait, when you make the basket with the watermelon, does the basket not have like a handle?
No, it's just I'm gonna
just a half.
Yeah, it's just a half, but I'm gonna like scallop the edge by like tracing a thing, so it's gonna be really cute. But cool. Since I'm gonna have to cut that watermelon in half anyway, I guess we'll see. I have a backup plan fun dessert where you put like a ball of watermelon, honeydew, and cantaloupe on a skewer, and then you stab it into an orange, and then you just make these little like Sputniks.
Yeah, my mom used to do that when we had like I guess dinner parties. I don't know, not we, when they did when growing up. But instead of melon balls, she had these little sandwich like tower things. So anyway, these things were like maybe 2 inches tall, and they had a little plunger in the center. And you would like, and they came in a square, a circle, an oval, and some other shape. There were 4. And you would like put your bread and meat and deli meats and stuff, and then you would like cookie cut it so that the plunger kept moving up, and as you made the layers, and then you would put a toothpick through it because the plunger was hollow, and then you would push the plunger down, and this little mini sandwich would pop out with a little skewer in the middle, and then you could put like an olive on top and like put them on like an orange like that. She would wrap her orange halves in like foil and then do that. So I know exactly what you mean.
I need that gadget.
I will find a picture of it. I will take it from my parents' house. I'm sure she's not going to use it.
You don't think she's going to use it anymore? I was going to say, like, I don't even know how to Google that. If you could at least find me the box.
Oh, I can definitely find you the box. I'm pretty sure the box was bought in the 80s or 90s.
Anyway. So that's my food talk. You got any food talk this week? How was your week?
I do. I got a food talk and an announcement because I am officially in summer.
Yay!
Well, not yet as far as recording goes, because of course. But summer break. Yay. By the time that this episode comes out, I will be not in school anymore. Work school, I guess. Or school for that matter.
Yay, summer.
Teachers out there, I feel your pain. We're almost there. I mean, if you're listening to this, we're there.
I'm excited.
But I do have food talk because this weekend we had some guests over and I made some food. And it was not necessarily mid-century food, but it was tasty and gluten-free because our guest was gluten-free. So I was able to get a recipe for these scones, which were delicious. And I made clotted cream, because what else are you going to put on scones? And I had some homemade orange marmalade, which I put out as well. And then I got some gluten-free bread, and then I made whipped ricotta.
Yeah.
Which is super simple. Literally, it's just whipping ricotta, putting a little bit of olive oil, salt, and pepper. Anyway, I should have done a little bit of cream in that to make it a little bit more stiff. So maybe next time. But the whipped ricotta was used for little canapes.
I love that.
So I had a platter, and we had whipped the ricotta on the bread, and then some had like tomato bits and pieces, which I was trying to go for like a bruschetta, but instead of that, it became just tomato. And then ones had prosciutto, and then others had both. And then on top, we drizzled some fancy olive oil.
That sounds delicious.
That was actually our guests' present to the house. I was like, perfect. I haven't done. I was literally about to do the olive oil with my regular olive oil, and they brought this. I go, perfect. I haven't done this yet.
They showed up with a bottle of olive oil?
Yeah.
I love that.
So
That's way more inclusive than showing up with wine. I would be thrilled if someone brought me a bottle of olive oil.
I know, right? I was so excited.
That's such a great host gift. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah. And then we played a game.
Yeah?
And it was not Clue.
Oh. The thing about Clue is you have to have more than 2 people to play it, so, like, I'm shocked you didn't jump at the chance.
Well, the thing was that we knew it was the whole point was like a game day, but they had said they were going to bring a game. But it is my segue into today's topic because we are talking about Clue.
We sure are.
Out of curiosity, when was the last time you played Clue? Clue.
2010.
Did you know the year?
I'm pretty sure I know like where I was in. Like I know exactly what room I was in when I played Clue the last time.
What room were you in when you played Clue?
I was at my friend's apartment, at the apartment they lived in when I was either a sophomore or a junior.
Okay.
In college. So it was either 2009 or 10.
Oh.
It was the last time I played Clue. When was the last time you played Clue?
A couple of weeks ago.
That's awesome. That's much better.
Well, yeah, I had we played not long ago, which is actually what inspired me to talk about this or research this episode.
Well, I can't wait to learn all about it / tell everyone all about it. So, for all of you out there who are unaware, Clue's a board game. In the most basic way, the game of Clue is a murder mystery where 2 to 6 players... It's really gotta be. It says 2 on the box.
Uh-huh.
But because if it's not you, it's the other person.
Yeah.
Where 2 to 6 players deduce who the murderer is, what weapon they used, and where the crime took place. Seems pretty simple, huh?
It does.
We will get into the details of its history in a minute, but the following are the instructions for the original 1949 British Cluedo game, which became later known as Clue. The game is played with tokens being moved around on a board that represents Tudor Close, the name of the mansion in which Dr. Black lives. Dr. Black has been found dead at the top of the stairs leading to the cellar in a spot marked X. The winner is the first person to identify in one accusation the murderer, the weapon used, and the room in which the crime was committed. Cards with all the rooms, people, and weapons are distributed to each player, with one of each category placed in the murder envelope, which would be a great band name.
Oh, that would be a great band name.
Without any player knowing. So the people in the house in the 1949 game were represented by wooden pieces of the same color as their card. So, as an example, Colonel Mustard was yellow.
Yeah.
Colonel Mustard is often shown to be a distinguished military officer who has been involved in several conflicts in different parts of the world, who is now retired from service.
So, fun fact, originally his name was Colonel Yellow, but it was thought, by some, that the word was a military slang for coward and didn't make sense with colonel. Because think about the fact that this is Britain post-war.
That makes sense. That's a good pivot. Professor Plum was purple. He's a highly intelligent yet absent-minded academic, a quirky-looking middle-aged to elderly man, while more recent ones are more younger and attractive-looking. The Reverend Green, who is green, a middle-aged businessman with possible connections to organized crime, though recently more of a charismatic playboy who uses his charm to get out of trouble. Wow, these, deep character backstories.
There's gigantic backstories to all these characters. It's actually quite amusing.
So Mrs. Peacock was blue. She's a middle-aged yet still relatively attractive socialite who is widowed. Then there's Miss
Hmm.
Scarlet, who is a red piece, and she's a young and beautiful woman commonly depicted as a socialite or an actress and is often the youngest of the original 6 suspects, often depicted as the stereotypical femme fatale, known to being cunning and seductive. Mrs. White is white and a senior member of the household staff of the mansion, often seen in the position of the housekeeper. And then there's Mr. Body, the dead man.
And bodies would spell with 2 Ds.
Interesting. So now it
His name
looks
is
like an
Mr.
actual name.
Mr. Body Black.
The weapons in the 1949 game were represented by small tokens and are placed in rooms in which they might have been found. There's a dagger in the lounge, a candlestick in the dining room, a revolver in the study, a rope in the ballroom, a lead pipe in the conservatory, and a spanner in the kitchen.
The wrench.
Oh, it's a wrench.
Yeah.
Is that what they call them in England?
Yes. Did you know that you were supposed to put those in specific rooms?
No, I did not.
I didn't either. I just kind of haphazardly throw them on the board whenever like I set up the game.
You know, I'm thinking, like, the rules as were presented to me were like someone remembering the rules. Like, I don't think anyone like generationally read these instructions more than once. I think everyone kind of skimmed it the first time and just started playing, and then you take the game out of the box to play it again, and it's just whatever you remember the rules being, and that's how it goes on for years.
You never read the books for Clue and like Monopoly and like Life, all those. No one reads the instructions. You're like, oh, I haven't played it in a while. Oh, don't worry, I'll show you how it plays. Or like, I don't know. I guess younger people may pick up a box of Clue and be like, how do you play this game? But like people our age know how to play Clue.
Right. We would just sit down and our instincts would take over. And our instincts were wrong about where we put the weapons.
Yeah.
So the rooms on the board were the hall, the lounge, the dining room, the kitchen, the ballroom, the conservatory, the billiard room, the library, the study. And each of the 4 corner rooms contains a secret passage that leads to the room on the opposite diagonal corner of the map.
So that's the game. But how is it played? According to the 1949 edition, at least, this is how it goes. Although the rules remain mainly unchanged since its inception. So, like we said earlier, right? Someone read the instructions in 1949.
And then that's it.
That's it. Someone's just been telling each other how to play. Everyone adopts a character that is near them. Once you sit down at the table, Miss Scarlet always goes first. So the person playing as her rolls the dice and moves accordingly. The next person to the left does the same, and the game gets moving that way. The board has little squares where, like, obviously, like if you roll a 6, you move 6 squares, and when you get to a door, you can go into a room. So whenever a player reaches a room, the player can immediately make a suggestion by calling into a particular room, or the one that they're in, any other person and any weapon. For instance, the player representing Miss Scarlet may reach the lounge and say, I call on another person, for example, Reverend Green, and move the particular piece into the lounge. They may also call and bring into the lounge any weapon, for instance, the spanner, and will say something like, I suggest the murder was committed in the lounge by Reverend Green with the spanner.
I feel like I never did that.
I've always done that, and I've always moved the people, and I've always get yelled at. They're like, you can't move me. I'm like, yes, I can. The rules say I can't move you. I'm sorry, but if you were getting close to the room you wanted to do an accusation on, sorry, you're now in the lounge.
I guess that's what makes it more fun, because if they're trying to get to the conservatory and then you just move them to the lounge, now they have to start all over.
Yeah, because you can strategize and then be like, oh, I think they're gonna win, so like I'm gonna move them. Like I don't need to call on Colonel Mustard, but I'm going to screw up with the person playing as them.
Yeah, man, I wonder if I played. It's been so many years since I played this game. I'm trying to remember if I did that. I always thought you just make accusations when you get to rooms, but maybe I did move the people around.
Wow. I like to move the people. Like that
gives it an extra layer of
and not to like give away my secret, but I will make accusations of things that I know are incorrect just to mess with people. But anyway, once the suggestion has been made, the player on Miss Scarlet's left in this example must examine his or her cards, and if they have one or more of those cards, in this case the lounge, Reverend Green, and the spanner, they must show only one of those cards to the player who's representing Miss Scarlet, unseen by other players. If the player on the left is unable to show one of the cards, then the inquiry passes to the next player, and so on until only one of the cards has been shown to the player who's made a suggestion. Such card having been shown to Miss Scarlet's turn is ended, and the play passes to the next player. And what I find really interesting, also, if like if we're playing and you ask me like green in the lounge with the spanner, and I've got both lounge and spanner, and then you ask me Colonel Mustard in the lounge with the spanner, I can still show you the same card I showed you last time because I'm still only showing you one of those cards.
Oh, it doesn't have to be a different one every time.
Yeah. As players play, they can make notes in their little detective notes, which is like a little paper that it looks like a little notepad. And when a player is satisfied that he knows the 3 murder cards, he can, in the same turn, make an accusation by writing the 3 names on his detective notes and checking his accusation by looking at the 3 murder cards in the envelope, taking great care that they are not seen by the other players. And you can only make 1 accusation. Now, if you make the accusation and it's correct, the player lays the cards face up on the table in which the note has been made, and they are the winner. If the accusation is incorrect, the player replaces the 3 murder cards, unseen by any other player, into the envelope, puts it back on the spot marked X, and having made a false accusation, he has no further turns in the game, but remains as a player only to contradict suggestions, meaning that they lose, they don't get to play anymore, but if someone asks, hey, do you have the, revolver and the ballroom, and you do, you have to show them the card. It's something exciting. I still have the same Clue board game that I had when I was a little kid.
Yeah, mine's probably in my parents' house somewhere.
And all the pieces and the cards are in a Ziploc baggie inside the box. The Ziploc baggie is not a Ziploc baggie. The Ziploc baggie is a bag of tortillas that we bought in 1997. The tortillas are far gone, obviously, but the
But you
pieces
kept
are
the
still
bag.
in it.
It's like, oh man, you must have just finished those tortillas the day you opened that game for the first time. You're like, oh, where are we going to put all these little pieces?
No,
Quick, grab the bag from the tortillas.
No, I come from a family where we save those bags. So there's a drawer in my parents' kitchen that's full of old tortilla bags and bread bags. And
I love that.
If you need a Ziploc baggie at my parents' house, you don't get a Ziploc baggie from the Ziploc box.
I love that. That's adorable.
But anyway, now that we've talked about how I store my pieces in my box, let's jump a little bit about the history or how the game came about. Because, of course, I had to talk about history.
Mm-hmm.
So the game actually comes from a turbulent time in British history. During World War II, air raids and blackouts rolled throughout Britain, thanks to the German Luftwaffe. And we have an inventor. His name is Anthony E. Pratt. And he is, I love how people, this is from British article, and I love how they start British things, because it's like Anthony E. Pratt, game inventor of number 13 Brighton Road, Balsall Heath, Birmingham. He was a gifted musician and pianist, and he wanted to be a chemist, but poor education and poor grades prevented him from becoming one. So kids stay in school. Anyway, he became a musician and earned a living playing piano recitals in country hotels and on cruise ships, where he traveled to places like New York and Iceland. During the Second World War, Pratt worked in an engineering factory in Birmingham that manufactured components for tanks. He found his work on a drilling machine tedious. So as the story goes, Pratt longed for the fun of English country estate murder mystery parties where guests would skulk the hallways, shriek, and fall dead on the floor. This comes mostly from time spent playing piano on country hotels and seeing the guests play this game, which was very popular at the time. Murder mystery novels like Agatha Christie's and Then There Were None were popular as well. All this together meant that from 1943 to 1945, Anthony and his wife Elva designed a murder mystery board game in their home at number 9 Stanley Road, Kings Heath, Birmingham. The original game was called Murder, because there's an exclamation point at the end, with artwork for the board itself designed by Elva. Now, Pratt filed for a patent on December 1st, 1944, after speaking to the managing director of the Waddington's Game Manufacturing Company. I love that there's a game manufacturing company, and that Waddington's is such a British
Waddington's,
name.
Yeah.
Pratt was granted a patent for improvements in board games on April 1st, 1947. I'm not going to bore you guys with the patent number, though I do have it written down. Norman Watson, the managing director of Waddington's, immediately saw the promise of the game, and with few alterations and modifications, he decided to manufacture it. And here's where it gets renamed. Waddington's renamed the game Cluedo, a combination of clue and ludo, a Latin word meaning I play, and the name of a popular board game in the UK. Have you ever played Ludo?
No.
I have. Huh. In the States it's called Pop Trouble or Trouble Pop or something like that. It's the one that's like the board game is a square and there's like a dice in the center with like
Oh,
Like you push it down and it goes pop, and the
yeah. I
dice shakes.
I feel like I've played that along
Yeah,
like in the 90s. So it was
that's Ludo.
wow. And so they had that back in the 40s.
Yeah, I
Cool.
guess
I had
it
no
makes
idea.
sense. I didn't know it was that old either. Man, now I want to play Ludo. Anyway, here's some differences between Pratt's original and the Waddington's product. So Pratt's original design called for 10 characters, one of whom would be the victim upon random selection prior to the game, more like the country estate game that they played. The characters that were eliminated were Mr. Brown, Mr. Gold, Miss Gray, and Mrs. Silver. It also had more weapons which were eliminated. These were the unused bomb, the syringe, and the Irish walking stick, which is, I'm going to try it, the shillelagh.
Oh, who knows?
The fireplace poker, and then the later used axe and poison. Some of these unused weapons and characters appeared later in spin off versions of the game.
And this brings us to the post-war period.
Mid
So
century.
now we're in the mid-century officially. Pratt originally licensed the game to Waddingtons in the late 1940s, and they produced it through the mid-century, at least in the UK. In the USA, Pratt licensed it to Parker Brothers. Due to material shortages from the war effort, the game did not go into production until 1949. In 1953, Waddingtons told Pratt that the game was not selling very well, especially in the USA, so they offered Pratt a sum of money, £5,000, which is about £59,000 in 2025, or almost $79,000 in today's money.
Yes.
Pratt took the money, used it to move his family, since such a sum meant he would not need to work. Him and his wife bought a sweets shop. Love that. This this was kind of backhanded because Pratt did not know how well the game was doing in the USA. Eventually, he worked as a clerk and moved back to Birmingham. So, did he never find out how the game was doing in the States, or are we about to find that out?
You know what? I don't know if he ever found out. I think his family did because there is an interview with his daughter. I think it was, and they talk about it, but I don't think I have it included.
So, in 1992, Hasbro Inc. acquired Parker Brothers and all their rights, which includes Clue.
I think Hasbro would be a good episode. I think it'd be interesting for at least one listener, me.
And then in 1993, the Clue World Championship was in New York City. I love that. So it was promoted by Peter DiPetro and Tom Chiodo of the Manhattan Rep Company. It was part competition and part performance art. Contestants played while interacting with actors dressed as Clue characters. The winner was Joseph Collar from the UK, who also came dressed as Colonel Mustard. And Collar won a trip to Hollywood.
That's amazing.
That sounds like the most fun ever.
I wish I would have been there to see it. Not necessarily to play it, but I would see it.
Yeah, it's like
I would go
half
and
a
watch.
gaming competition and half like some sort of like fan
Comic-Con?
convention. Yeah, like a Comic-Con
Yeah.
thing. So, here a little bit about the marketing of the board game. So, Clue was marketed as the great new detective game. Attempts were made to connect it to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's character Sherlock Holmes. Advertising suggested that players take the guise of Sherlock Holmes following a criminal. No depictions of Holmes appear on any publication or on the box, though 1950s boxes from the UK show a detective in a plaid overcoat looking through a magnifying glass.
Yeah, they literally show Sherlock Holmes as he's portrayed in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle series, but they're like, no, I'm not saying it's Sherlock Holmes. I'm just giving you Sherlock Holmes, and if you connect the two, then that's on you.
Some other notable mentions in advertising include a commercial from the 1970s showing Sherlock Holmes and Watson playing the game. Cute. And another commercial shows a bumbling inspector modeled after Inspector Clouseau from the Pink Panther looking for clues. That's cool. I like that they're just tying in all famous detectives. That's a great way to keep the board game relevant.
Exactly, yeah. Until the Hasbro acquisition in the 1990s, both Parker Brothers and Waddingtons produced their own versions of the game. Hasbro combined them in the early 2000s. There have been some changes, which we will cover in a little bit in the podcast episode, but for the most part, the formula remains unchanged. Some notable additions of the game, though, include Clue the Master Detective from 1988, which is an expansion with 12 rooms, 10 characters, and 8 weapons for up to 10 players. It adds Miss Peach, Monsieur Brunette, Madame Rose, and Sergeant Grey to the suspect list, and also adds the poison and the horseshoe as weapons. Cluedo, the 50th anniversary from 1999, is the classic game with the option to add a weapon, poison. This was also issued in a miniaturized travel version, which now I want. Another notable edition of Clue is the Nostalgia Edition from 2003, which is a retro reissuing of the 1963 design of the game in a wooden box. Restoration Hardware actually issued it as the wooden box Clue.
If Restoration Hardware was selling it, it means it was $400.
I'm sure it was. And the last one we're going to talk about is the Vintage Edition from 2005, which is a reformatted Nostalgia Edition into a vintage bookshelf collection along with a series of other popular board games. They did this thing where like they did the vintage edition of different games like Monopoly and Clue and blah blah blah, and they made them so that the boxes looked like a leather bound book, so you can put them like a shelf, and like
Oh, cool.
the side the spine of the book, which is the side of the box, has like the words in like gold foil and stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But that actually, since we're in 2005, that's a great transition to our connection to today.
Yes. So the game of Clue has sold over 150 million copies and is considered, at least by Hasbro, to be the second most popular board game in the world, second only to Monopoly. Although there's no professional league for playing, there are several run-throughs you can watch online and can even find strategies online. Hasbro remade the game by eliminating the elegant aesthetic of the original and replacing it with more contemporary themes. The murder takes place at a celebrity party instead of a Tudor close, and some of the rooms are renamed, such as the spa and the theater. Characters also got revised backgrounds. Colonel Mustard went from being a military man to a football hero. Professor Plum became a billionaire. Weapons saw changes too. Some disappeared, while 3 new ones were added. So here's where we get the axe, a trophy, and a baseball bat. But don't fret, you can still purchase the original and better version.
Good.
In 2017, it was inducted into the National Toy Hall of Fame, and in 2024, because 84% of the U.S. population consumes true crime, 84% of the U.S. population age 13 plus watch or listen to true crime through any medium like TV, YouTube, or podcasts, we have been able to keep this game relevant.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I know, people love true crime now, so like, why aren't we playing Clue every day? We should be
playing Clue. We should be playing Clue every day. You're right.
Yeah. The game has also been adapted into various other media, from book series to television and film. In 1990, it was adapted into a British game show where guest performers related clues in character, and this ran for 4 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's even a musical titled Clue, the Musical. It was an off-Broadway musical, 1997, written by Peter DiPietro with music by Galen Blum and Tom Chiquito. Wait a minute, those names sound familiar.
They're from earlier. They're the ones who did the championship.
Yeah, they sure did. Good for them.
Yeah.
The plot concerns a murder at a mansion occupied by several suspects that is solved by a detective, while the ending is decided by the audience. Audience members randomly select cards that determine which suspect committed the murder and which weapon was used, and in what room the murder took place. Based on the cards drawn, the mystery has 216 possible endings, for which the script provides appropriate selections of dialogues to be delivered at the show's conclusion. That must have been a lot of work for the actors to just be ready. It must have been
a lot of work, yes. But how cool. I'm sure it's a pain in the behind for the poor actors who are Broadway actors, so they're obviously underpaid and overworked. But how great. I would go every night.
Yeah, that sounds like the most fun. Yeah, because you'd want to go more than once. That's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
It opened off-Broadway at the Players Theater on December 3rd, 1997, and closed after 29 performances and 17 previews. That's a shame. They didn't even get to do all the endings.
I know.
It initially received bad reviews. The New York Times said, "Why would you want to turn a board game into a musical? Making a musical from a board game is the kind of bizarre task that only a genius or a fool would undertake, and there's no sign of genius here."
See, this is why people need to ask us our opinion, because we were much more favorable towards this musical. I have never seen it, though.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a blast.
Oh, wow. I feel, okay, if anybody out there on Tuts or Broadway Across America is listening, someone do this, please.
But perhaps one of the most well-known media interpretations of the game came in 1985 with the production of Clue, the film. The movie is a black comedy mystery film written by Jonathan Lynn and features an ensemble cast of Eileen Brennan, Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn, Christopher Lloyd, Michael McKean, Martin Mull, and Leslie Ann Warren. It grossed $14.6 million to its $15 million budget, but has since developed a cult following.
I don't know how this movie flopped because it's literally a who's who of the time.
And it's short and sweet and really funny.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they barely broke even, or they didn't. They lost money. That's a shame. But anyway, the basic premise is six strangers were invited to a secluded mansion and upon their arrival meet Wadsworth, the butler, played by Tim Curry, and receive a pseudonym to match one of the characters in Clue. During dinner, they discover that their absent host, Mr. Body, is blackmailing them. Mr. Body arrives and, upon being cornered and told the police are coming, threatens to expose everyone and gives them weapons to kill Wadsworth. These are the six weapons in the board game. The lights cut out, a shot is heard, and then Mr. Body is dead. The group is then forced to investigate the death of Mr. Body, understanding that one of them did it, and nervously walking around the mansion and evading new visitors, like a singing telegram girl who gets shot upon arrival and a cop who gets locked in the billiard room.
I'm sorry, I keep
The
laughing while you're
bodies
reading.
just keep piling up. Like, it's really
Yes.
hysterical.
Also, when you talked about the shot, all I could hear was Miss Peacock screaming.
Minor characters such as the cook and the maid get killed as well. The biggest twist of the movie is that it has different endings. Like the board game, the movie has 3 distinct endings which were released as independent movies when the film debuted in the 1980s, meaning different theaters had different versions of the film. How it could have happened, the maid killed Mr. Body on orders from Miss Scarlet, who killed the other victims. She is cornered and prepares to shoot Wadsworth in an attempt to escape, but Wadsworth reveals that he is an FBI agent and takes over, accidentally shooting the chandelier, which falls, narrowly missing Colonel Mustard.
I love this part in the movie. Like
1
they
plus
count
1
the
plus 2
bullets
plus
in the
1.
gun.
Trying to figure out
every, every time I have to count stuff at school, I'm like 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1.
Then there's another ending is, how about this? Mrs. Peacock killed all the victims and upon escaping gets arrested by the FBI.
This is my least favorite of the endings.
Yeah, it's a little anticlimactic.
Yeah.
And my favorite one, here's what really happened. Everyone was responsible for at least one death, except for Mr. Green. Wadsworth holds everyone at gunpoint and reveals that he's the real Mr. Body and that Professor Plum killed his butler, believing it to be Mr. Body. Mr. Green draws a revolver and kills Mr. Body, announcing that he is an undercover FBI agent.
I love this one too because there's a point in which Christopher Lloyd, who plays Professor Plum, goes, "Well, who did I kill?"
And he's like, "My butler," and he's like, "Shucks," or something. He says something like,
yes. Oh man.
I love how at the beginning everyone is like genuinely frightened by all the murders, and by the end of it they're just like, like another body, like
Yes.
it's like
And
really funny.
one thing we did not talk about is that in these endings, as people are explaining what happened, they're running from room to room, going back and forth, like, and here's what happened here, and then like they run.
They did a really good job of turning the game into this plot. Like it's still they have and use the like secret passageways in the corner of the house, and like all the rooms are the same rooms, and all the weapons are the same weapons, and like they included as much of the gameplay as they possibly could, complete with the fact that the ending can change. Like I thought they did a really good job staying true to the game.
I agree. I think that they were perfect. I think that like the movie, it's great. It's hilarious because the actors are hilarious. It's true to the game because it uses the rooms, it uses the weapons. There's multiple endings. I mean, I get it. There's only 3, but still, like, there's different endings like there would be in the game. So, and I do love the fact that, like, whenever like they open the gift boxes Mr. Body gives them, which have the weapons in them, they pull them out and like they're literally like they show them to the camera, and you're like, that's the token for the rope, and that's the revolver. Like, I don't know.
I do wish Miss Scarlet was wearing a red dress. That's my only thing that
true.
bothers me.
She's wearing green.
Yeah,
right.
It bothers me for some reason, but it doesn't really need to, because her character is perfect.
Yes, everyone's character is perfect. Although I think my favorite is Miss White. Actually, they're all my favorites. Never mind.
They're all my favorites. Love them all.
They're all my favorites. And I love the little things. They all have like little character traits. Like Mr. Green will like be like, "Well, I had to stop her from screaming," or like, "I told you I didn't do it." But anyway, some fun facts about the movie. Apart from making a great drinking game, here are some amazing tidbits. Carrie Fisher was supposed to play Miss Scarlet, but was replaced because she entered treatment for drug abuse.
Oh, that's a shame.
Rowan Atkinson was supposed to play the butler, but he was not a well-known enough actor at the time, so the role went to Tim Curry.
He would have also been good.
Yeah, Rowan Atkinson would have been hilarious at it, but Tim Curry, I can't picture Wadsworth as not Tim Curry.
Yeah, me neither.
The film currently has a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes with an average rating of 6.4 out of 10. Metacritic has given it a score of 41 out of 100. There's even an upcoming film, potentially a remake of the classic from 1985, though let's face it, that is unlikely to be possible because the original is just that good. Hasbro licensed several of their board games in 2008 to Universal Pictures, and a film adaptation of Clue was announced, then dropped.
Phew.
In 2016, collaboration with 20th Century Fox was announced, and the project seemed to be moving forward. The film's alleged to be a worldwide mystery and an attempt at setting up a franchise. In 2018, Ryan Reynolds was announced by Fox as one lead in the movie, written by the writers of Deadpool. As of 2024, Hasbro has established deals with TriStar and Sony Pictures, but we don't even know any more about it. I think that we should not remake this movie.
If it does end up being made, I hope that all it really does is make some more people watch the original one. Like, I bet there are some people who don't even know about the original movie. So maybe, like, bringing it'll be like the Jumanji effect, where, like, people, when they remade Jumanji, it just made more people go back and show their kids the original. Like,
yeah, that's true. I like that because we're showing the classics.
mm-hmm.
In over the 75 years since the creation of the game, there's been several changes and modifications to it. Here are some interesting changes. Apart from what we've already talked about, the rope weapon has been changed from its original. It was actually originally a piece of string in the box to a plastic representation of a bundle of rope. The lead pipe was originally made of actual lead, which we now know is not good for kids, and small pieces are very easily placed in someone's mouth, right? So in 1965, it was updated to be made out of steel, and today it's made out of pewter. The characters have evolved to keep up with fashion, hairstyle, and pop culture trends. The original 1949 version would look old-fashioned today, as would the updated 1960s version with animated-looking characters that were meant to mirror the popular Saturday morning cartoons of the time. They were also updated in the 1980s to look sleeker. This is the version that I have in my game. My actual game is the sleek-looking version. Mr. Plum looks kind of wacky. One of the biggest changes in the last 70 years is the elimination of Mrs. White in 2016. That's right, Hasbro has killed off Mrs. White and has replaced her with a, quote, more accomplished Dr. Orchid. She is also the adopted daughter of the mansion's owner and has a sinister background, having been expelled from Swiss boarding school due to a near-fatal daffodil poisoning incident.
Intriguing.
So, Games Magazine included it in their top 100 games of 1980 and also in their top 100 games of 1981 and again in 1982. There's a game by Milton Bradley called 13 Dead End Drive, which is a murder mystery game from 1993. There's also a game called Kill Dr. Lucky, which is a parody version of the game from 1997 and was produced by Cheap Ass Games. Clue also has themed editions licensed to popular TV shows such as Supernatural, Star Wars, in which players are to find out which planet is said to be destroyed, where in the Death Star the plants are hidden, and how you will escape.
Oh, cute.
And also The Simpsons. If you want to learn more about Clue, you can visit the Cluepedia wiki by fandom or follow them on Instagram at official Clue. Like, that is their tag.
I'm gonna go follow them. That is awesome.
But now that we're caught up to the present, it's time for our etiquette segment. So, Jackie, what do we have today?
So today's etiquette segment is inspired by Clue the movie. So I went into Amy Vanderbilt's guide and I found a section on semi-formal dinner parties. So we can see how well they did in the movie with the like invitation and seating part of chapter 30 of Amy Vanderbilt's guide. So the chapter starts with Amy saying that what the average American thinks of as a formal dinner is actually the semi-formal or company dinner. This is the seated dinner of 4 to 8 guests who may or may not be in evening dress. She mentions that if you're having more than 8 at dinner, it usually must be buffet style or at bridge tables informally. So you can only keep to semi-formal, I guess, if they can all fit at your table. I guess seems to be the distinction.
Well, good thing my table only sits 8.
Yep, I think that's why she has that rule. And also, a real formal dinner has a lot more guests, a lot more rules, and a lot more hired help. So we'll have to cover that in a totally different episode. So
Noted.
anyway, so invitations. Invitations to the company informal dinner are usually phoned or are given by word of mouth. The hostess always tenders the invitation, and invitations to company dinners are not treated lightly. Guests should not disappoint the hostess at the last minute without a believable excuse such as an illness. Neither should they ask to bring another guest. So when guests arrive, both the host and the hostess should be in the living room 5 minutes or more before the appointed time to greet all of their guests. When an invitation is issued for 7 o'clock, guests may arrive at that hour promptly, or up to 10 or 15 minutes later. At a large dinner party, lateness of as much as half an hour is typical in metropolitan communities. In the West and Midwest, though, when a dinner invitation is for 7 o'clock, guests begin to arrive at 6:30, because there it's assumed that they are to be seated at dinner at 7 or shortly after.
Interesting.
So there's like a cultural difference. Like 7 o'clock in the city means show up at 7, but 7 o'clock in the Midwest means that's when we're going to eat. So show up early.
Huh.
Once dinner is announced, the hostess should not be expected to wait more than a few minutes for latecomers, unless the latecomer includes the guest of honor, who ideally should never be late, but without whom it is certainly peculiar to sit down. If the lateness is really very serious, guest of honor or no, the hostess proceeds with the dinner. A latecomer enters the dining room as quietly as possible, goes briefly to the hostess, who remains seated so as to not disturb the table, makes an apology, and sits immediately in the indicated place. If the late one is a woman, the man to her right rises or semi-rises to seat her. Entering the dining room. So once the meal has been announced, the hostess leads her women guests into the dining room with the men following, the host bringing up the rear. The men step forward and hold the chairs as the hostess indicates where each lady is to sit. The woman guest of honor is placed to the host's right, and the male guest of honor is placed to the hostess's right. The men then seat themselves after a cue from the hostess. For parties of more than 8, place cards simplify this procedure. Even at a smaller party, cards should be used if the hostess is likely to become flustered or forgetful of names, which is good advice. So, what do we think, not just about this etiquette, but how well they stuck to it when they were seating at the semi-formal dinner in the movie? Because we cover a lot of these in there, because Mr. Body's late.
Yes.
So a lot of this happens.
Yeah, the invitations in the movie are made by card, not by phone call.
That's true.
So,
but they do all show up around the same time, probably within 10 or 15 minutes of each other. They are all greeted at the door by Wadsworth, who is just the butler, but is also the host, sort of.
Depending on how you see them, like which ending you have, he's either the host or the butler.
Dinner is announced without the guest of honor, but they sit anyway.
True.
So other than you're right, the being written invitations, they must have reread this chapter like while they were blocking that scene because like they really kind of go through everything.
Yeah, I like this. I like the rules.
I do too.
I kind of want to have a dinner where I have guests of honor though, so that I can have them sit to my right.
Yeah, I wonder who. I guess it's like whoever the most important person is. Now that I know this rule, if I'm seated at somebody's right. If I'm seated to the right of someone at one of the heads of the table, I'm going to assume that means I'm the most important person at that dinner. So, but I like it.
But I do agree with these mid-century rules, and I feel like we should give them the stamp.
I agree too. Man, I've got to pick something really like sketchy for the next episode. We've been agreeing with all of the etiquette. We haven't disagreed with anything in a while.
Yeah, but with that revelation, it looks like we have finally found out that it was actually Mr. Green in the hall with a revolver. Thank you all for listening today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show and tell a friend.
You can also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at MCL Podcast. Instagram is the best place to send us feedback and episode suggestions. Send us a DM anytime, and you can also contact us through the Send Us a Text Message feature in the show notes.
Yeah, so send us some fan mail. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye!
Thank you for listening to Mid-Century Living. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. See you next Friday.